What if events went differently in Spider-Man No Way Home? What if Spider-Man had the Venom Symbiote? Imagine a new timeline where some of the events had unfolded differently. What could this mean for Tom Hollands Peter Parker? Well, welcome back, my fellow watchers, to the finale of the Symbiote saga of events. You may have seen all the other parts, but if you haven't already, I would highly recommend that you check them out. The link will be in the description down below. But a single choice caused a ripple in this reality that has produced surprising outcomes. Venom's presence leads to the survival of Spider-Man, who was supposed to be erased in the blip, to even other things, such as Tony Stark. Before we begin this mega event, I would like to ask you, would you like to see animated what-if videos? This is a serious question. Would you like to see it happen? Well, starting this month, you can help back my dream. Here at MTP Productions, we will be crowdfunding to make animated what-if fan films from all of the most popular what-if videos, maybe even this Symbiote Saga series. I can't do it alone, so make sure to check out the page and share with your friends, family, anyone that you know. I know that we can make it happen together. With that being said, let's dive into the multiverse. There are several universes and slight changes in the fabric of space-time, and one insignificant detail into a detail of mass importance. In this particular universe, an exercise of sheer will and power by Wanda Maximoff had released a symbiote into this timeline. The symbiote had attached itself to Peter Parker, the one called Spider-Man. And now the story has become more than we ever anticipated. But there is more to the story. Peter Parker and Venom are to face their worst threat yet: Peter's exposure to the world. Peter Parker was at home, as confused as ever. He went around to close all the windows. Aunt May and MJ were there with him. They tried their best to calm him down, but he wasn't budging. The moment he tried to tell them to leave him alone, his symbiotic arm emerged and launched towards the wall. This scene scared MJ and Aunt May, so much that they held each other. Suddenly, Peter's eyes went black. It was clear that Venom was in control of his body now. Venom quickly apologized for his actions. He explained that Peter's emotions were all over the place now, and he reacted to it. Then, he retreated back into Peter's subconsciousness. The effect of this retreat was Peter's eyes turning back to normal color. Peter was confused on what was going on and what had happened. He was next to Aunt May, and Aunt May assured him that everything would be fine. After all, he was a superhero, and he had to defeat the villain, Quentin. But Peter knew things weren't just going to be the same again. When Peter got to his room, he asked Venom why Venom had done what he had earlier. He knew Venom was not just reacting to emotions. He knew that there was something else. He wondered what it was. Venom used the opportunity to inform Peter that he wanted the world to know him finally. When Beck exposed them, he could finally be recognized for the hero he had turned out to be, the lethal protector that they were always supposed to be. And he was disappointed to see how Peter hated what was happening. Peter explained that things were not just that simple. His entire life would be affected by this change, and this would in no way affect Venom. Venom noted that Peter could still live happily. Peter now signed that Venom wasn't human, so he'd never understand. Immediately, Peter could feel the pain in his chest, and he knew that the pain he felt did not belong to him. What he just said hurt Venom extremely. He attempted to apologize, but now he felt nothing. He couldn't feel Venom inside of him again. Then the sad reality hit him. Venom just blocked him out. It had been weeks since Peter's exposure as Spider-Man and Venom. Fortunately, he had been able to get his criminal charges dropped, but things weren't any better. He had walked around with a lot of stares. He had a lot of people with his autographs, but he also had a lot of people who thought that he was a monster. Several people referred to the Lagos massacre all over again. The monster inside Peter did that, they would say. Soon enough, everyone was scared of Peter Parker. They were scared of the day Venom would emerge. They were scared Venom would attack them. In fact, Peter was unsure he would get admitted into college. He was also scared for Ned and MJ. They were his friends, and he was afraid their admissions would be affected because of him too. The entire situation was just frightening. But what hurt Peter the most was the fact that he could no longer feel Venom. He knew what he said had hurt Venom a lot, and now Venom had blocked him out. He tried apologizing so many times, but Venom never came out. This was all unfair. Happy was the only person Peter thought he could talk to, as they had known each other for a long time, since Tony Stark. Happy Hogan had become like family, and Peter figured that he had the ability to advise him where necessary. Right now, Peter was in his room asking what to do. Without Venom coming out, Peter couldn't even use the symbiotic suit, but that was the least of his problems. He needed to talk to Venom. He needed his friend back, and he hoped Happy had a solution for him. Unfortunately, Happy did not have a clear solution for Peter. He believed that Venom would also show up for Peter when he needed him. He just advised Peter to give Venom some time. After all, the symbiote had begun to feel human emotions since it bonded with Peter. That explained the hurt Venom felt. Happy just believed that within time, everything would be alright. However, Peter had other plans, and he quickly got a spare suit. When Peter reached the Sanctum, he was greeted by Stephen Strange and Wong, the Sorcerer Supreme. After a while, he finally had the opportunity to have an audience with Strange. Peter immediately explained his plan to Strange. He needed Dr. Strange to use a spell to make everyone forget he was Spider-Man. Strange had his initial doubts, but he decided to run the spell for Peter. Of course, Wong had been present and warned Strange not to go ahead with the spell. Nevertheless, Strange had a habit of disobeying Wong already. Soon enough, he had begun the spell. As Strange was performing the spell, Peter began to mention the persons he needed to retain their memory of him, being Spider-Man and Venom. As he mentioned each person, Strange had to alter his spell. However, there was only so much alteration one spell could take. The spell immediately backfired, an event that made Strange exceedingly upset. Peter immediately began to apologize, and in his bid to justify everything, he spilled that he had earlier met Happy for advice, and he had not met the college administrators. This upset Strange even further, and he instructed Peter to leave immediately. Peter, on seeing what he had done, decided to leave the Sanctum. Apparently, he was going to have to find another way to help his friends get into MIT. Peter was currently in a frenzy as he looked up for how to catch up with the college ambassador and convince her into letting him and his friends get admitted. Peter understood that if he was not accepted because of his current situation, but he could not bear seeing his friends not get admitted just because they were associated with him. Parker had a very dark thought that his friends might also turn on him and block him out, like Venom, if they got affected because of being associated with him. Peter already felt very awful with the way Venom had been treating him, and he knew that he would not be able to bear it if his girlfriend, Michelle, and his best friend, Ned, stopped talking to him. "Wow, you must be really angry to not comment on Ned being my friend," Peter said to Venom, but he was still met with no reply. Peter could swear that since the encounter with Strange, that he had started feeling something different. It was as if there was a deep rage building in him. Peter had wanted to attribute to it being Venom's fault, but the rage he felt was too deep to control. Peter quickly brushed it off as Venom was still very angry with him. Peter quickly sighted Flash Thompson, and he went ahead to meet him. Under normal circumstances, Peter would not go to Flash for anything, but he needed to get the location of MIT's ambassador, and fast. Flash as usual made it hell for Peter. Flash told Peter that he needed something in return, and Peter quickly accepted this. Immediately, Flash had told Peter about the location of the college ambassador. He went off in pursuit of her. Peter had never been as grateful for traffic as he was now. The traffic slowed down the vehicles that the college ambassador was in, and Parker was gaining on her fast. As Peter reached her, he started saying his rehearsal speech about why the college should admit his friends and not him. Then, Parker saw the reason for the traffic congestion, and he was no more grateful. Parker saw a man with metal arms, wreaking havoc, and only later did he get to know that the man was known as Dr. Octopus. Spider-Man politely paused his discussion with the college ambassador, and he rushed to save the civilians. The battle was a really tough one, as Peter was surprised at the agility and speed of the man's arms. It was as if they had a mind of their own, and that meant that Peter was fighting with multiple opponents at once. What also baffled Peter was that the man seemed to know him, but he knew that he had never met this man before in his life, even in his worst nightmares. Peter saw an opening and he decided to take it, but he realized lately that it was a feat. Soon after that, he was held down by Dr. Octopus's metal arms. Peter got to know the hard way that his metal arms were made of nanotechnology, as Ock stole some of his suit. It actually came as a plus to Peter, as he used the suit to save the MIT administrator, who promised to give both Ned and Michelle their admissions out of gratitude, and Peter was very pleased. Before anything else happened, a portal opened, and they were suddenly back at the Sanctum with Dr. Octopus, along with some other strange people placed in a cell. Parker was confused, and he immediately saw Doctor Strange, who tried to explain everything to him. Doctor Strange had so wanted long to be wrong, but deep down, he also knew the truth. Strange knew that messing with the memories of everyone on the planet had serious repercussions, and in their case, it affected the multiverse. Strange tried to explain what was happening to Peter. He told Parker that when he kept modifying the spell, it caused a breach in multiple realities, and that's why multiple people that were somehow affiliated with Spider-Man were in their own universe. Peter was dumbfounded, and Strange could not blame the kid, even though it was his fault. Strange quickly told Peter that they had to send each and every one of their villains back to their respective universes, but he did not have all of them, so he magically modified Spider-Man's suit so that he could bring all of the villains back that were on the loose. Peter called Michelle Jones and Ned to aid him, and then he went out to hunt the criminals. Peter had a very hard time gathering them, and he would have been unsuccessful if it was not for some extra help. Peter had gotten help from Sandman in capturing Electro, even though he had sort of betrayed him by capturing him too. Peter also had help from his Aunt May, as she gave him the location of Norman Osborn, who was at her feast program. Peter could also not forget the help that MJ and Ned gave him. Deep down, when Electro fired that bolt at him, Peter had secretly wanted it to blast him, as he thought that Venom might come out to save him then. The words of Happy still rang in Peter's ears, as he told him that Venom would be there when he needed him. But so far, all he got from Venom was silence and a deep feeling of hatred. Strange got Spider-Man's attention as he wanted to send the villains back to their respective universes, but Peter could not allow that, sadly. Peter decided that he had to make his move. Peter had discovered that everybody they captured died in their own universes, and he wanted to change that. Peter wanted to fix them, but Strange was going to have none of it. Strange had already meddled with the universe by trying to wipe everyone's mind, but he was not going to meddle with the whole multiverse. Strange told Peter that they had to die in their universes, or else it would change the sequence of events. Strange believed in sacrifices for the greater good, but Parker obviously was not a believer, and he entered into a conflict with Dr. Strange, who wanted to perform the spell on the villains. The conflict was an interesting one, as Peter only had to rely on his quick reflexes and brain power, while Dr. Strange used the mystic arts. Strange was tired of the conflict and just wanted to get things over with, as he could not get a hold of Spider-Man. This was displayed when he separated Spider-Man's soul from his own body, as Peter's spider sense made his body able to still evade Strange. Dr. Strange then decided that enough was enough and moved the fight into the mirror dimension. Peter was surprised, but using his knowledge of geometry, he was able to escape the mirror dimension. Peter trapped Doctor Strange in there, as he also stole his sling ring. Once Parker escaped, he called his friends, Michelle and Ned, and they started working on fixing the villains. Peter informed the villains that he was going to release them and take them to where they would be fixed, and they all agreed on not killing him. After that, Peter released them and he took them to Happy's apartment. The first operation had been a success. Otto Octavius's upper brain function had been restored, and now Peter Parker was working on Electro. The mood was generally cheerful, but suddenly, Peter felt a sinister presence in the room, and he immediately pinpointed it to Norman. Peter then realized suddenly that it was no longer Norman Osborn that he was facing, but rather it was the sinister Green Goblin, who laughed manically. The Green Goblin had succeeded in convincing Electro to fight against his cure. Electro quickly tore off the machinery that Peter built to suck off his powers, and he found an arc reactor. Electro quickly put it on and blasted Doc Ock out of the building. Green Goblin then took advantage of the distraction, and he wanted to escape, but Peter blocked him as Venom suddenly came alive. Peter became very happy as he discovered that Happy was right, that Venom would emerge when he needed him. Peter then discovered that something was very wrong, as Venom was telling him that he would die. The Green Goblin then laughed, and his laughter was matched by Venom's laughter. Suddenly, Venom leaped off of Peter and attached itself to Green Goblin. Green Goblin was left in shock, and he was shattered. "Peter Parker, you're dead," Venom hissed as he wanted to lunge at Spider-Man. Suddenly, he was stopped by another voice that said that they were still weak and needed to merge properly before they attacked. Peter deduced that this was the voice of the Green Goblin. After a lot of very creepy back and forth arguments between themselves, they decided that they would kill Peter Parker later, and Green Goblin's glider appeared, and he swiftly escaped the room. Peter was so weak as he dropped to the ground. Venom had most of his strength and willpower when he left him. Peter then decided that it must have been a lie, or an imagination, because Venom could not possibly leave him like that. "I have to get him back," Peter told himself, as he went after both Venom and Goblin. What Peter saw him would haunt him for the rest of his life. Peter saw Aunt May being strangled by Venom, who was busy laughing along with the Green Goblin. Peter quickly screamed and rushed to aid her, but it was too late as Venom formed a spike with his hand and impaled her to the wall. As Peter got close to them, they tossed her body towards Peter, and he had to stop and catch her body. When he did and looked up, they had disappeared. Aunt May was struggling to speak, and tears filled Peter's eyes. Peter knew that he had to get her immediate medical attention, but Aunt May stopped him as she kept trying to mutter words to him. Peter quickly bent down to hear what she was trying to say, and what he heard broke him even more. "Not your fault," Aunt May painfully gasped. Peter knew that it was all of his fault, and he was about to argue with Aunt May, but she shook her head slowly, and Peter could only weep. She beckoned him closer, and then she said, "With great power comes great responsibility." Those were her last words, and Peter could not believe that they were. Peter tried again and again. He could still not hear her breathing, nor could he feel her pulse. Peter would have probably kept trying for eternity, but cops stormed the place and Peter had to escape, while Happy caused a distraction for him. Peter wondered what Happy must be going through after the death of his Aunt May, and his guilt expanded further. Peter tried to get over the thought of Venom killing his own aunt, but then he remembered something. He remembered the past visions that he had when he first got the symbiote before the Avengers Civil War. He remembered things when Venom was blown up by another Spider-Man. He had visions of what that might have been like. He thought that maybe Venom was using him all this time and wanted a stronger host. Maybe Venom really did hate Spider-Man. Ned had been trying to use the sling ring, and currently he was getting some luck. MJ then suggested that they try and open a portal to Peter, and things had gotten really complicated. Ned and MJ were very concerned about his well-being, as they had just heard from the news that Aunt May was dead. Ned tried opening a portal, and he had succeeded in getting 2 Peter Parkers, but none of them were from his own world. Ned was discouraged from opening any more portals to Peter's, as they were scared of what they might find on the other side. After asking some questions about Peter's favorite place, they quickly found him at it. Peter was at his school's roof, and he looked very down. The other Peters and Spider-Mans told Peter their story. Peter too told him how he had the symbiote during a planetarium party, and Peter 3 told him that he had the symbiote all along when he first became Spider-Man. They also stated that they had been betrayed by loved ones, and Peter should not allow it to define him. They were able to sprung Peter to fight in the memory of Aunt May, and it was on. The 3 Peters, along with Michelle and Ned, worked on various remedies, even though the latter felt very uncomfortable when he learned that the 2 Peters' best friends had tried to kill them. The 3 Peters also deduced that the spell from Doctor Strange had affected Venom very negatively and turned him evil, even though they did not have any cures for him. Peter thought that he could bring him under control. After the cures were finished, they decided that it was time to end business once and for all. The fight was going very well, but it was not like that at the beginning. The 3 Spider-Men had trouble working together, but once they got it down, they were almost unstoppable. They fought like they had trained for years, and they soon took down Electro and Sandman. They immediately administered the antidotes to them, and it worked successfully. After that, Peter went after Green Goblin and demanded to meet Venom. Green Goblin had just laughed and told Parker that Venom was behind him. Suddenly, Peter felt a huge blow coming from behind him, and he immediately dodged it because of his spidey sense. Peter immediately viewed the new opponent and discovered that it was Venom. Peter was confused, but Venom did not give him any chance for questions as he fought Spider-Man through the wooden floor. Green Goblin quickly cackled, and he was about to join in on the fun, but he was stopped by the other 2 Peter Parkers from their universes. Soon, everyone was occupied. Venom revealed his new carrier's face, and it was Eddie Brock. Eddie told Peter how he felt about the explosion that separated him from Venom, and how he was elated when he was transported to the same world his symbiote was after a very long time. Peter quickly deduced that Eddie was the original owner of the symbiote before Wanda had caused a crack in both their worlds, and an explosion which separated Venom from him. After that, Venom had subsequently escaped into Peter's world, and they had merged and became best friends. Peter guessed that his suspicions were true, and that Strange's spell had also caused Venom to turn back to his evil ways, as Eddie told Peter that it was Venom that tracked him down. It was just like having your heart attached after a long time, Eddie said. Eddie planned to destroy Peter's world because it had caused him much pain, and Peter did not blame him. Eddie also stated that he would get revenge after Spider-Man had used a pumpkin bomb to kill him before, but now he was back, and he was going to finish what he had started. Peter quickly noted that Green Goblin had been subdued by the other 2 Spider-Men after much destruction, and he decided that he had to put an end to this madness. Peter knew just what to do. Even though it broke his heart, he knew that it was the right thing to do. Peter ran towards Venom, and they prepared for him, as Eddie wielded Venom to morph his 2 hands into spikes. Peter did not have violence in his mind as he signaled to the other Peters, and they shot out webs at Venom. Venom quickly tore through the first round, but his efforts started becoming sluggish, as the webs were just too much for him. After some time, Venom was completely engulfed. Doctor Strange arrived as Ned had been successful in retrieving him from the mirror dimension, and Peter told him his solution. Peter had told Doctor Strange to wipe the memory of the whole world of him, as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Peter knew that it would send everyone back to their universes, everyone including Venom, who was now with Eddie Brock. But it was for the greater good. With great power comes great responsibility, Peter repeated in his mind, as he remembered Aunt May's words. Peter could not face Ned and MJ, and he did not tell them about what Doctor Strange would do. Peter figured that bad things would happen to people he knew, so he had to protect those he still loved, by staying as far away from them as possible. The two other Peters discouraged Peter from doing it, but he had already made up his mind, and Doctor Strange casted the spell. Peter felt terrible months after the spell, and nobody remembered him, not even Doctor Strange. Peter remembered what Strange had told him before casting the spell. "Nobody alive would have any memory of you, kid," Doctor Strange had said. Peter knew that what he did for his friends and loved ones. But now, he was sort of regretting his choices, as he was very lonely, and his friends seemed very happy without him. Peter was suddenly pulled out from his thoughts when he saw his door open. Peter was coming back from work as a photographer when he noticed that the door was unlocked. Peter immediately went into full caution as he prepared for any threats, but what he saw inside his room blew his mind. It was Tony Stark. Peter guessed that it must have finally reformed, and the spell did not affect him because he was not alive at the time it was casted. "What have you done, Peter Parker?" Tony said with a smile. Peter didn't respond. He hugged Tony and broke down in tears. And that's the Symbiote saga, my fellow watchers of the multiverse. That's the complete Symbiote saga storyline, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. I know that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and also Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man should have had a much bigger role within the No Way Home event, but the reason I didn't continue adding parts of the previous stories because it was the Spider-Man 2 Symbiote storyline. The What If one was connected to this one as well as the TASM one, but I felt if I added too many story details, a lot of people wouldn't really understand. It's been a long time since those universes played out, but those universes, those Peters were the ones that helped him. So anyways, what did you think of this What If? You guys might have asked if it was the 2018 Venom Symbiote, and no it wasn't. This entire time, the symbiote that Tom Hollands Peter had was in fact the 2007 one. Although it still acted like the 2018 one, it's because a lot that I wanted to do was the hive mind. I wanted to explore different Venoms from different realities, and I feel like although the 2018 Venom would share a lot of similar aspects from the 2007 one, I really wanted to showcase that Venom still liked Peter as a friend, but in the end, he was always going back to his evil ways. Would you like to see another part continue to this? Would you like to see another MCU Symbiote saga storyline? I know a lot of people wanted to see separate stories with these ones, so I might end up doing that. But that being said, if you want to see this animated, make sure to follow the Indiegogo page, as I will be doing animated what ifs. I know if you can sign up right now, it would be highly appreciated because I can't do it alone. I can't. So it's going to take all of us to make that happen. But that being said, I hope you enjoy and take care. Peace out.